Real talk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Humans Talking podcast with your host, Freno, and co-host, Brylon. What's up, Brian?
Hello. Hey, not much. Just enjoying Thanksgiving, food, and living like a slob until I have to go back to work. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Well, our Thanksgiving was okay. Went and saw some family for a bit. Boys got a little wild, but nothing too crazy. It rained a lot, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been raining pretty much this entire
Yeah, this whole week it's been like off and on, like every hour it like rains. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been staying inside watching a lot of movies. We watched Pearl recently. Highly
Ooh.
recommend. That was really good.
Compared to the sequel, or I guess, well, the sequel prequel. I don't know how you classify that one. As compared to the first movie, X. How does it?
Yes. I didn't like X as much. I felt like there was a lot of more interesting things they could have done with it.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked Pearl. It was what's her name? Mia Goth. I think she deserves a nomination.
Yeah,
I really want to see
5-minute
monologue. Yeah, there's like a 5-minute monologue where it's just her talking. There's no cutaways in the camera, and you're just like, oh shit, it's really good.
It's going deep. Well, I mean, it's been out for a while. How long has been X out? For a year now?
Nah, probably like 8 months. Yeah, almost a year.
I mean, I feel like most people have either seen it, but regardless, the movie, the naked old lady killing people, sure. So Pearl is the prequel. Yeah. So Pearl is the prequel to when she was younger. Now, maybe you can put things into perspective for me, because my understanding from the first movie, the only reason she was lashing out and killing people was because she wasn't getting any dick. she couldn't have sex because her husband's like, hey, I got a heart condition, and if I, overexert myself, I could die. And so that like caused her to like get sexually frustrated, and for whatever reason, turn to murder.
Yeah.
Now, Pearl is set back when she was young, so I guess they're saying she had these murderous tendencies ever since she was young. It didn't just start whenever she was old.
Yeah, it's essentially it's a story of how she became how she was in the X movie.
Okay. Yeah, because the way X kind of portrayed it kind of seemed like, yeah, she's killing people, but it I don't know, at least from my perspective, it made it seem like she wasn't doing it that long, because obviously when the husband was younger, he could have sex with her. So whenever he got old and his heart was getting bad, that's when he stopped. So I was like, oh, that's when the murdering started, but I could be completely wrong. It's like, no, she's always been psycho, whatever.
Yeah, it's she has like an obsession with a movie star, and that's really
That's what motivates her through Pearl.
Yeah, the crux of it is that she wants the attention. She wants to be a star. She doesn't want anyone to stand in her way. It's really good.
Okay.
I highly recommend.
Yeah, I plan on watching it. It looks interesting. I know in X, she had pictures around the house of whenever she was younger, and she's like, yeah, I used to be a dancer. My husband, he went to the war, and I was a dancer, and then we just got old together and never had kids. So it seemed pretty straightforward, but I guess it's interesting now that they're compounding or changing things up a little bit. I assume she's still a dancer in Pearl, or at least have aspirations of being famous or something.
Yeah. I think they did a really good job of tying it together. There's a lot of really interesting I don't know. I think the character is very sympathetic in a lot of ways, and the actress Mia Goth fucking just killed that role. And it makes sense. Like, there's a good parallel. Like, you could see this movie and be like, I could see it, like how it goes into the next one. It actually makes you, I think it retroactively makes the second or the X better. And I want to go back and rewatch X because of seeing this. I actually think, I don't know if it's like the whole time I was watching it, I was like, is it better to watch this one before you watch the second one? Or is it better to watch the second or the X movie and then go back and watch Pearl, and then go back and watch X again.
I mean, because it
Because
is a prequel, so it would make sense, canonically.
yeah, yeah, it would make sense as far as timeline wise, but but I don't know if you'd appreciate it as much. I don't know. It's interesting.
I'll have to
Um,
watch it and see for myself. But I'm glad that it got good reviews. I'm glad that you enjoyed it because I really
yeah,
want
I'm very excited for the third one, whatever that is,
to.
and yeah, I actually do think it retroactively makes the first movie better. So
So the director already said he wants to make it a trilogy.
yeah, the third movie takes place in the 80s, and it's called Maxine with three X's.
Yeah, because by that point the old lady's dead in X. So whatever this third movie is, yeah, it would have to be after that.
I think I can't remember the final girl's name in X. Was it Maxine? I think it was. Maybe it was. She was. If we're spoiling that movie, I don't know. X. Um, the girl who survives was
Yeah,
also
she
Mia
plays
Goth.
Pearl. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's about her because she wasn't into adult films until that movie, right?
We assume so, yeah, because I mean, they're
Well, there's
all
like,
just like there making a film. They don't really explain too much of their backstory. It's like, hey, here's some young people making a film, and
well, there
now
was a
here's a crazy
girl
old lady.
there was a girl doing that was only doing camera and had a boyfriend, and then she
That
like
yeah, that was so interesting. Yeah, she was like the Christian girl who's like, this is perverted and wrong. Why are y'all doing this? And she was inquiring about it more out of curiosity and not so much judgment of you going to hell. And then you find out why she was so curious because she's like, how can y'all just have sex and not be in love and all this stuff? And it's like, yeah, love is fluid. It's just for film. We each have
yeah.
our own partners we're with, and everything works out.
So her name is Maxine, so it's about her.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
in
so
the
interesting.
80s.
That was really funny when the cameraman, the boyfriend, got pissed off. He's like, "You can't be a part of this film," and she's like, "Why not?" And he's like, "Cause you're too good for." And they're like, "What do you mean too good?" It's like, wait a minute, now you're being judgmental when it comes to your girlfriend being a part of the film.
Yeah, it's I actually think it's a really solid. The first two movies. As a person who was like a little disappointed with the X movie, going back and watching Pearl, and then going back to X, if he nails the third movie, I think it's going to be a very exciting trilogy. With Mia Goth. Mia Goth, it fucking kills it. She is amazing. So yeah,
So yeah, I'm
the
stoked for that.
credits are just uh, it's not a picture. It's just a close up of her face for 3 minutes as the credits are going, and you can see her like it's not like a picture. It's like her just with an expression on her face, and she just holds it for 3-4 minutes, and you can see her like changing it, and just she's acting the whole credits. It's amazing.
I
You're
love
just like
because yeah, there
really
are
upset.
there are old school movies that used to do that. There's a lot of 80s movies that would do that. They would like kind of have that still at the end of like
Yeah,
the person's face and I always thought that was like creepy and effective and really cool. So it's nice to know she's doing like one long shot of it.
yeah, it's really good. You should watch it as whenever you can. It's like $4, $5 to rent now on like Amazon. So
Yeah, I'll probably find another copy online. We actually found a copy of Black Adam that we watched last night.
how is that? I still need to see that.
You haven't seen it yet?
No, no.
Your reaction, your exasperated breath, that's normal when it comes to Warner Brothers property.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it is what it is. It is a movie. It exists. It's not bad, but it's also not great. It's very, very middling. It's very average. It's a nice way to kill 2 hours and to see some superheroes fight for a couple hours. And it's just like, all right, well, we're done. Moving on with
yeah,
our lives.
yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm starting to put a lot of the comic book movies on the back burner. After watching Pearl, and then we've been watching like old school. I've been really sick of just the current blockbuster Hollywood
Yeah.
where it's just comic book movies and regurgitated bullshit over and over again.
Hmm.
So I used to watch only international films or whatever. Like I used to watch all kinds of fun stuff, and I've just been really craving original work. So like lately, we've been watching like Good Will Hunting. I watched that for the first time. That was really
Oh,
good.
you haven't seen it before?
Nope, nope. We're going back and seeing all these original films
It's not your fault.
that are classics. We watched Remember the Titans on Thanksgiving because Callie had never seen it.
Okay.
Amazing movie, amazing
Yeah.
film.
Very good
Uh,
movie.
yeah, and then stuff like Pearl, uh, and yeah, just all of the comic book stuff has been pretty. I trying to push myself. I love this stuff. I do. We watched the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, and that was
Yeah, we watched that last night. That was entertaining. Another good 45-minute special that's just easy to digest and you can move on.
yeah. I'm really enjoying those, but yeah, I don't know. I'm craving original cinema lately. I'm excited for Knives Out, and we're gonna watch that tomorrow.
Oh, you mean the sequel to Knives Out?
Yeah, sequels.
What is it called? Like Glass something?
Glass Onion. I've
Glass Onion. Okay.
heard it's just as good as the first one. The
I
first one was
mean,
great.
yeah, if you like a good mystery, yeah, it's
I love mystery. So yeah,
yeah.
we've been kind of going through. So like Black Adam is it's on the list, but man,
It definitely doesn't need to be at the top of your list. You're not really missing anything. It's if you're
yeah,
bored and you want something to watch, sure, but like you said, there's plenty of other things you can be watching right now.
I don't know if I'm gonna pay it. Like I'm trying not to support uh those types of movies.
Right.
They get a lot of money already. I don't need to give them any more. Maybe I'll go. I saw Black Panther in theaters. Like I'll watch the Marvel ones are at least pretty good for the
You
most part.
yeah, you
But
know they're going to be good.
yeah, but I don't know. I just don't want to. I'd rather support, you know, Glass Onion or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I hear Bones and All is supposed to be like a really good one too.
yeah, that one looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been trying to watch, or I want to watch, 3,000 Years of Longing by George Miller. That looks really good.
Is that the
But
one with Idris Elba as the genie?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's on the list too. I haven't really heard anything about it, so I'm curious. But
I've heard mixed things, but I don't know. I love George Miller. I mean, give me a director who has the range of Happy Feet and Mad Max, and
and everything in between.
yeah. So, but yeah, that's disappointing that they couldn't pull it together with Black Adam. I know he's been working on a movie for a very long time. So
Well, sort of. I think they said he had the script written in 2015, and they just kind of like put it, on the shelf until I guess Warner Brothers was ready to pull the trigger and actually make the movie. So by the time they were ready, he just kind of, dusted the script off and like, brought it out and said, okay, let's make the movie. Problem being is that, in that 5 or 6 year time period, other superhero movies have come out that he probably should have taken notes from and tweaked the script a little bit. But, like I said, it was fine. It wasn't great, but it is what it was.
mhm. That reminds me. I don't know if this was on your subject as far as topics, but did you hear about Quentin Tarantino, his interview about comic book movies? And
No, I haven't heard that. What did he say?
pretty much he was saying that the state of Hollywood now, and the way that everything's really geared around franchises, are essentially that actors or movie stars are dwindling and don't really exist anymore. Like people don't go to the movies to go see what's his name, Chris, the guy who plays Captain America.
Chris Evans?
Yeah, his quote was like, "People don't go to the movies to go see Chris Evans. They go to the movies to go see Captain America."
They want to see that character. Robert
Yeah.
Downey Jr., they want to see Iron Man.
Yeah, they don't care about the actual actors anymore. They're not there. It's not like the old days where it's like the new Stallone movie, the new Wesley Snipes movie are out, and people would go see that just on the name recognition alone.
Yeah.
Now it's about the character, and anyone could play that character, and doesn't really matter. But movie stars don't exist anymore because of it. and everyone got really mad at him
That's an
because he's like,
interesting hot take.
But it's I
Well,
agree with him, but
it depends because you're specifically talking about actors who are playing like you said a franchise multi movie role, as opposed to the other dynamic actors who are doing like more fluid roles where they're just doing something different every time. I mean, because that's the whole premise or that's the whole philosophy with Joaquin Phoenix, which is why he didn't accept Doctor Strange because he didn't want to get locked into one role. He likes doing a range of things.
Yeah, but and yet he did do Joker, and that was like the highlight of his career or whatever.
But that was one movie. But yeah, now they're going to do a second one.
Yeah, but it's also a lot of the new movies that come out that are like quote unquote artist movies, like Amsterdam, or another great example, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck collaborated on their first script since Good Will Hunting,
right?
And did what's that movie with Ridley Scott? The Last Duel. Amazing movie. Had Ben Affleck, Matt Damon,
And
the guy who plays Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren. Oh my God, Adam Driver.
Yeah, Adam Driver.
Yeah.
All of the women in that movie were amazing.
That
Ridley
was such
Scott
a good movie.
bombed. People don't see movies like that anymore, and that had everyone. Same with Amsterdam, bombed. 3,000 Years of Longing, bombed. These original movies are getting made with amazing movie stars that have the talent, obviously. Like, and if this was the 80s, those movies would be, people would be flocking to go see Amsterdam with, I forget their names.
Now, to be fair, I have seen The Last Duel, so I can confirm that is a good movie. I haven't seen 3,000 Years of Longing
or did you see it in HBO?
I think I streamed it. But regardless, it was still a good movie. But I know people were saying it didn't do well and it wasn't a great movie. And I'm like, no, it was a good movie. Because another director was saying something, he was kind of salty that it didn't like blow up in theaters because he's like,
he said that young people don't have the attention span to watch movies like that anymore.
Which is a little harsh, but I mean, there is some truth to it. It's like, because it wasn't a big, Marvel, whatever. Whatever. It was still a good movie.
It was a good movie, but everyone waited to see it when it was free on HBO. Well, that's what I did. People didn't go to the theater. And I think that's the point, is these Quentin Tarantino's like these movies with that should be making, in yesteryear, like a Gladiator would be making money on the name recognition alone, like the pedigree. But people aren't watching those in theaters, and they're not paying money to go see those. Those movies are bombing as far as financially. But then you have like the Marvel movies, and people aren't going to see those movies because of the stars playing them. They're going them to see what happens next in the Marvel machine. Like, who's going to play Adam Warlock in the new Adam Warlock thing. He shows up in, he shows up in Iron Man 3, and now we need to know, we have to see that movie because we need to know what's going to happen for the next movie. It's all marketing for the next movie.
Yeah. I can't blame the machine for creating a comic book style franchise where it's like, hey, here's a long ass story that we're going to break up into a bunch of different movies. Watch the next part. I mean, that's just how comics roll. I understand Quentin Tarantino's and these other Martin Scorsese. I understand their frustrations, but at the same time, art is subjective. And if this is what the media is doing now, I don't want to say shit or get off the pot. That's a little harsh because they're good at their craft. They're great directors, but it's like they could, if they wanted to, they could create their own franchise of movies of something. But that's not the old school style that they're used to. Yeah, so I understand why they're upset. I mean,
it's like the gaming industry. It's harder to bank on original IPs when you have the
live service and the microtransactions.
No, well, you have the stuff that works. Like, you have the franchises that are already established. So why would you, try to do something else when you have the easy money right there? But also, Anthony Mackie, there's a clip going around that Anthony Mackie saying the exact same thing 15 years ago whenever Winter Soldier came out. He literally, I don't know if I could bring it up, but he's literally saying, like, they don't make, movie stars don't exist anymore. They're not there to see me. They're there to see the Falcon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, movies like The Thing wouldn't get made today. Halloween wouldn't get made today. Stuff like that. Those movies they're not. They make no money. They're original IPs, but people don't want to bank on that because that's not what people are paying money to go see. They're paying money to go see not The Last Duel, but they're Black Adam or whatever.
So, do you think these directors should adapt with the times to try to
No,
keep up, or do you think they should just fight the power and see who comes out on top?
no, they shouldn't. They should do what they want to do. I don't
Right.
want to see Martin Scorsese direct Captain America 9.
And he
That's
won't.
not.
He never would.
I know. I'm saying that would be them adapting, right? Or like seeing Joaquin Phoenix. I think it's extremely hypocritical and silly of Joaquin Phoenix to be like, I'm not going to do Doctor Strange because I'll be put in a franchise and whatever. And then he goes over and does a Joker movie, and then does the second one with Lady Gaga where it's a musical. And it's like, okay,
Well, that was Scorsese, right? That was his movie, so which is another
no,
weird.
it was the director of The Hangover.
The
Whatever that guy.
Hangover for the first Joker.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Joker was made by, I'll look it up right now, Todd Phillips.
Okay.
Todd Phillips has done
And it had the same premise as Taxi or Taxi Driver.
is Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy, which were both movies by Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, that's
So they
where he's
literally
coming in.
ripped off Martin Scorsese to do a movie, a franchise Joker movie, which Martin Scorsese probably has good reason to be salty about. It would be
Now,
like, he's like,
yeah.
I don't want to do Marvel movies, and they're like, well, what if we just steal your style and turn it into a Marvel or a
I don't
DC?
think they planned on it being a franchise movie because they took the Joker character, but they didn't do anything with Batman. They're like, we're just going to make a story about Taxi Driver, a guy who just goes nuts because he has a bad life. Now when they decided to make a sequel, then that's when it starts becoming a franchise. So that's kind of on them at that point. First movie, I think they were just going to do a standalone movie and be done with it. But because it did so well, and then one of their brothers probably threw a bunch of money at him and said, hey, keep going. It's like, okay, well, now you're getting into the franchise territory when you could have just stopped at one movie.
I mean, I guess I could believe that, but at the same time, that movie, in no way, shape, or form, at the end of that movie, did it indicate that this was a single movie.
It could have been, but they chose to keep it going.
But they didn't wrap anything up the end of the movie is so open-ended that it's literally asking for a sequel. Todd Phillips was like, oh yeah, this is a single movie, but we're going to leave so many threads that could be put into a second movie.
They left the gates open, and that's completely fair. That they don't have to make a sequel. I mean, if that's the way he wanted to film it, yeah. And apparently the second one's supposed to be a musical, which I find strange because personally I don't really like musicals, so I don't really know what's happening.
I love musicals. I didn't like the first Joker movie at all. I thought it was overly pretentious, but yeah, I don't know. I do feel like it's a little hypocritical for what's his face to do that sort of thing. And he's a great, amazing actor, and he did an amazing job in that movie. But I don't know. I also feel like it's a really screwed up that they literally stole Martin Scorsese's style, even though they know that he's against, franchise style movies.
I mean, they took the entire premise.
Yeah, and then they just put it. They took two of his movies and then were like, well, what if instead of Robert De Niro, it was the Joker?
I mean, that is quite literally what happened, yeah.
Yeah, it's like if the next movie they do of Ant-Man is really just Pulp Fiction instead of, they just take the premise of Pulp Fiction, but all the characters are Marvel characters.
And I would still watch it.
Yeah.
I feel for Tarantino and Scorsese. I mean, they do have a point where they're coming from, but at the same time, I'm just like, I mean,
do we really need
because here's the at the end of the day, they can continue making the movies they want. The problem is it won't pull in the money it would have back in the day.
They're not going to be able to make the movies they want because the you have to have money to make movies. No one's going to pay to have a movie made if they're not making that money back. So those types of movies are like, there's a conversation going around where it's like, remember back in the 80s, the 90s, the adult movie, like movies like Wild Things or like the adult dramas don't exist anymore. Movies like The Imitation Game, The Bridge of Spies. I don't know, the Terminal, movies that have, in Hannibal, Silence of the Lambs, those types of movies that are adult movies made for adults do not exist anymore. And because they don't make any money, and all the adults are going to go see Marvel films.
You better scale back. Better go get some college students and try to make your little drama film. It does suck. It does suck when you're used to making big blockbuster films and you're like, okay, well, if the Hollywood, whatever, studios aren't going to give me money for this particular unique idea project that I want to do, I'm going to have to scale down and just like work with some cheaper actors and work it at a cheap. I mean,
they got to go to Netflix where the budgets are lower and cheaper. They can get canceled at any time.
But yeah, just waste Netflix money. They're already good at that. Netflix wastes its own money.
Well, they're cutting down on that. Like,
we got a freaking badass Hellraiser movie from Hulu and Prey.
Franchises.
Yeah, and I'm glad they fixed those up. But yeah, I mean, they can still make original movies. They're just going to have to use a much smaller budget. And
they're all relegated to streaming now for the most part.
I mean, because I think about Napoleon Dynamite. I'm like, that was a cheap ass movie, and yet they made a bunch of money from that. They said that they spent like $1,000 like total making that whole film. So I'm like, you can still make the movies you want. It may not look as pretty, it may not have the big budget you want, but it's like, if you're gonna seriously try to fight the franchise Marvel machine, I mean, you work with what you got, or just don't make any more movies. It sucks, but either you can get your original idea out with a smaller budget, or maybe you can find one studio that still has some integrity and is like, you know what, I agree with you with the whole franchise bullcrap. I still want to give you millions of dollars to make this unique idea.
Yeah,
it kind of depends. I mean, you're so well known at that point. You can talk to the right people or try to get something going. But it does suck. Those like, conversations they would have had before would have not really been much of a conversation. Like, hey, I want to do this movie, and the studio's like, okay, here you go. How much? But now it's just like, well, what is the movie about, and where is this going? We're not really comfortable giving you this money. It's like, okay. That would be extremely irritating. It's like, bro, we've worked together for 20 years. You know the type of movies I make. Why are you being so cautious with the money? It's like, well, because times have changed and people want to see Captain America. That would frustrate me if I was a well-known director. It's like, really, y'all are like arguing with me now about movies. But it is their money, so it's at the same time, that's how it works. They're the investors.
I mean, things like Django, Pulp Fiction. The Godfather, Goodfellas, those wouldn't be greenlit today. I'm looking at a list of movie budgets right now and the worldwide gross, and I have scrolled. It's Avengers Endgame, Pirates of the Caribbean, Avengers, Star Wars, Avengers, Pirates, Justice League, James Bond, Mission Impossible, Star Wars, John Carter.
All the franchise movie.
There's not. I'm scrolling all the way down this list of the biggest budgets. I've not hit one thing that wasn't meant to be a franchise. Jurassic World, Robin Hood, I guess. I don't even know which one that is, but it could be Robin Hood at number 43.
To piggyback off of this idea or this conversation, did you ever watch the Hot Ones episode with Matt Damon?
No.
He had brought up a similar point to what you're talking about. Sean had asked him, what caused the big change in like movies? What caused the big change in media? Because back in the 90s, directors were very experimental. They were doing all these crazy ideas with movies and unique original stories. And, some were hit and some were miss. And then by the 2000s, that just kind of stopped. Everything kind of became formulaic and franchise-ish. And he's like, what happened? And then Matt Damon was pretty much basically telling him streaming in this particular sense killed that whole thing, because it's like back in the day you would make money off the DVD sale. So if people didn't go see stuff in movies, they were going to buy the DVDs of it. So in the 90s, the Hollywood industry was still making a ton of money, mostly from DVD sales. Because, if you do an experimental movie, it doesn't do so well on the box office. A bunch of people are still going to buy it on DVD and you make your money back. But he
It'd be
said
a cult following.
in the 2000s when DVDs like stopped being a thing and everything became streaming, they're like, oh, we're not making any money anymore off DVD sales, so studios became a lot more cautious with projects they would greenlit. So that's why Matt Damon was saying like, so now in the 2000s, you're not going to see nearly as many studios greenlighting like original ideas because they're not going to make a lot of sales in it if it's not going to do well in the box office if people stream it online and whatnot. And now here we are in this conversation where it's like, okay, Tarantino and Scorsese are like, okay, everything's a franchise now, so now we're really not getting money for original ideas if they know they're not going to make sales in merchandise or toys or whatever it is they can make off of this movie.
Yeah, I'm looking at
and back in the day everything wasn't CGI also. The 2000s CGI took over a lot of stuff too.
I'm looking at top lifetime gross on imdb.com. Everything is a franchise. The closest thing I found was number 66, Bohemian Rhapsody, almost made $1 million.
Oh, the 66. I mean, and that's not even a franchise. Those are just like the documentary movies.
Yeah, which is not even an original work, really. I mean, it's just about his life. There's everything else is Disney.
Yeah.
Disney franchise or DC franchise. Or
we have been getting a lot of like documentary type movies, or mockumentaries, whatever you want to call them, or the life story of somebody.
Mm-hmm. Venom is 83 on this list. That doesn't deserve to be on any
83
other than shit movies from the 90s or whatever. Early 2000 movies that could be filmed in the early 2000s that you wouldn't know are, it's 83 on the top lifetime grosses of movies. It's just sad. The state of the industry is disappointing. So yeah, that is why, long story short, why I haven't seen Black Adam yet.
It all comes full circle. And that's why you shouldn't watch Black Adam. Oh, that was a very interesting tangent we just went on.
I'm sorry. I wanted to talk about that.
It is. Feel like it's a podcast.
He's getting so much shit for that. And it's like, but he's right, though.
Yeah, I mean, things do change. The industry changes.
If Ant-Man or if they made a new Captain America, well, I guess they already did. Like Captain America has already been replaced with the Falcon. If they made a new Iron Man movie, Iron Man 5, with a new actor, unknown actor or otherwise, people would go see that movie.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the Robert Downey Jr. as much as people want to make it about Robert Downey Jr. As soon as Iron Man 4 gets released, everyone's going to go see it.
Yep.
Period.
Yeah, that's true. At the very least, they want to see how this new actor is going to portray Iron Man and then unfairly compare him to Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Man, that's the state of the world, though. I mean, times are always changing. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but it does suck when things change like that. Because it's like, okay, well, if this is the state that this industry is going in, some people like it, some people hate it. It's like, it just, unfortunately, as time goes on, this is how things change. And it's like, well, you either can get on board or you can, I don't know, try to do your own thing.
One last thing, another movie I saw recently during this break that was fucking amazing. All 10 people who listen to this and Nick will watch this movie in theaters. The Menu.
The Menu, yeah,
amazing.
I keep seeing trailers and I haven't seen any I haven't heard anything about it other than the trailers I've seen. I'm like, okay,
it's wonderful. It is that movie made for adults, dramatic thriller, mostly thriller movie that's not a franchise, very original. It treats you like you're an adult, and it is great. Really funny at times, really horrifying at times. Just a great movie. It doesn't waste your time. It's short and sweet. Highly recommend.
Okay.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, I'm going to add that to my list of stuff to watch. Now, you have studios like that who are still doing original movies. So,
that's Fox Searchlight. It's now Disney.
It's now Disney.
All these movies that are coming out recently,
probably made years ago.
they were made before the transition.
Okay.
And Fox is just, or Disney's like, well, might as well just release it.
We got to recoup this money.
Yeah, it's Searchlight Pictures. It doesn't exist anymore. That Fox was apparently, ironically, even though they had so much bullshit coming out with the X-Men Disney franchises, whatever it is, they had a lot of original work that was really good. Searchlight was really the only ones doing it. They did the Banshees of Inisherin, the Irish movie with Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson.
I haven't
Amazing.
seen that one.
I saw it in theaters. It's a spiritual successor to In Bruges. Great. That was one of the last movies that they put out. Like Disney's essentially dumping all these movies out. They did See How They Run, which I've heard is really good. The Chevalier movie, Fresh, which got dumped onto Hulu. That's where all the movies are just being dumped onto Hulu.
And these are all good movies. These are all good original movies.
The adult movies for adults that aren't based off a comic book. And but now they're owned by Disney. So anyways, I highly recommend you check out The Menu. It was really good. Really, really good.
I mean, these gripes that you have are like the same gripes I have when it comes to the gaming industry. You know, it's literally because it's a different form of media, but it's the same problem. It's like, okay, why spend a bunch of money making an original game that may or may not do well when we can make a cheap ass game with a bunch of microtransactions and a live service? And we're going to release it broken. You're going to spend money on it anyway, and then we'll patch it like in a year.
Yeah. Why make anything original? Let's just make a Pokemon game, copy, paste, change the name. One's red, one's blue, one's purple, one's red. And then, take 4 characters out of this one and move them over to this one. Boom, done.
Call of Duty can be similar. I mean, I would say the only thing original with Call of Duty would be their campaign. I keep hearing the campaigns in the Call of Duty games are always unique and fun.
Half of them don't even have campaigns.
They release them separately. But yeah, they always have campaigns that are like really amazing. And then the multiplayer is just like, well, it's the same copy and paste. Different guns, different sound effects, but it's, but the formula works. So they're going to keep making money. So until it stops making money, they're just going to keep doing it. Same with movies. If this franchise superhero thing works for, however long, but as soon as it stops working, they'll stop doing it. I don't see it stopping anytime soon. I mean, Marvel literally has like phases of like projects they have coming out, which I love and I think is great, but on the other hand, you've got people on the other side of the industry who don't like this franchise bullcrap because now it's hurting their original IPs because Marvel's got a whole cinematic universe going out.
Yeah, it would be totally fine, but in this weird post-capitalism world where it's like, all right, everything's made about money. Everything's about money.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're in post-capitalism where it's like everything is owned by the same 5 companies. That's where we fucked up because now Fox owns most of the major studios.
Or Disney.
Disney, yeah.
Yeah,
So now it's like, well, now there's no room for anything small. Like, we can't, it's about making money. So if we're not making money off of our, mid-range movie that's only geared towards, people that are 25 to 40, why do that when we can make a comic book movie that's all American and we can make, a global movie where people in China will want to watch it, people in, wherever want to watch it. Let's do that.
Well, China's different. They ban a lot of stuff for many stupid reasons. But yeah, I get what you're saying. At least it's worldwide now.
Yeah, there's more likelihood that they're going to go see a spectacle movie where they don't have to understand the language necessarily, but they can see the action on screen because it's going a mile a minute, as opposed to seeing Silence of the Lambs, where they don't know the criminal justice system. They don't know anything about these characters. They don't know what the FBI is. You think they're going to watch that? No. They don't care.
They don't. Now, I wanted to ask your opinion on something. Do you remember back before Fox Studio, not Fox itself, Fox Studio was acquired or bought out by Disney? They had the rights to Spider-Man and X-Men and everything. And there was that legal battle going on where Marvel/Disney were like, hey, we want the rights to Spider-Man back. And they're like, no, we're going to keep milking him. And then they eventually came to an agreement where it's like, okay, we'll let you keep the rights to the Spider-Man film, but you have to let us direct it, which is where we got Tom Holland and all this great stuff. Which then led into, okay, since this is working, can we have the rights back now? And they're like, why would we give you the rights back? Like, we're making so much money. We'll let you direct it, but we're going to keep making money off of it. To where eventually Disney just pulled the trigger and said, you know what? Forget it. We're just going to buy the entire studio. Do you think that would have happened eventually? Or do you think because they were being so, I guess, difficult with the rights to the Spider-Man film franchise that caused them to want to buy the studio, which then caused a chain reaction of like, okay, we're just going to buy all the studios and just own all the properties and make everything a franchise? Because if Fox had stayed separate, they could have kept making individual original movies.
I think it's two things. I think Disney with the new MCU, how do you call it? The way that the cinema was going, like the way that the movie industry is going, Marvel had hit something with Iron Man, and they had already gone like halfway through this MCU bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So, but Fox was still doing original films, and then the comic books were kind of on the side. They were doing these really bad X-Men comics and shit like that.
Yeah.
And I think wasting money on all these big budget comic book movies that weren't giving returns like Dark Phoenix and Apocalypse, and that were doing critically poorly, really damaged the studio. So they were trying to play catch up with Marvel, but were failing because they, didn't have a ground floor essentially to like stand on, and it damaged the studio to a point where, that they were able to be bought. But I also think that Disney wouldn't have bought them if the MCU hadn't been a thing. They're like, oh, we're making so much money off this Marvel bullshit that, well, some of our most popular characters we sold over to Fox. Well, we want those characters back because we know that no matter how much we pay to Fox, we're making $1 billion off of these. How many franchises can we make off of Spider-Man? $1 billion franchise off of Spider-Man, $1 billion franchise off of X-Men. We could split them off and make different characters, X-Force, X-Men, X Magneto movie. Boom, that's another $1 billion each. So I don't think that I think it was the fact that Fox was so focused on trying to keep pace that it damaged the rest of the studio to be able to be in a place where they got bought. And I don't think Disney would have bought them if it wasn't for the Disney franchises doing so well. They saw, the tea in the leaves. They were like, oh, this is where we're headed. Clearly, we're the leaders here. So we need to snap up all these properties, whatever the easiest way to do that is, so no one else buys them and then starts competing again with us in this space. So they just bought everything, and that's the end. That's the end of adult movies.
At the beginning of the end, that's the first domino. I mean, because to be fair, they were going to run into this issue eventually, right? As soon as Disney bought Marvel and they started making their first few movies and they started, making money, and they put Kevin Feige in charge and he's making a whole cinematic universe. When they saw the big picture of where this is going and how much money they're making, they're like, we have an unlimited source of characters we can use. So eventually they were going to run into that issue like, okay, well, we also have some really popular characters that we can't use right now. What do we do about them? Because now that, because obviously fans are going to want to see, oh my God, the superhero movies are making a comeback. I want to see a new X-Men. I want to see a new Spider-Man. It's like, well, yes, you do, but you also don't, because it's owned by Fox. If they make another Spider-Man X-Men movie, it's going to be crap. Dark Phoenix was crap. Everything they make is crap. So it's just like, all right. So eventually it was going to come to a head. It's like, hey, Disney cracked this formula. They've got big plans because of Kevin Feige. Yeah. You're going to have to give us our shit back. And they're like, well, legally we still own them. And it's like, okay, so we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. Because we're going to need those characters. Because if they were small characters that Fox owned, nobody would really care. But these are Spider-Man and X-Men are major, major important characters in the superhero communities. And so is Fantastic Four. So they're going to want to see them again. So they're like, something's going to have to give. This battle was going to come to a head at some point. So it was just a matter of time.
I think the biggest trick that I guess $1 billion companies ever ever pulled on us was the fact that we're able to root for like Disney or Activision or Microsoft, Blizzard. We're able to root for these big billion-dollar companies to take over smaller companies, and we're like when they're creating monopolies. So
Yeah.
we see Disney buy Fox, and we're so excited to see X-Men and Spider-Man, which is just two IPs that we don't give a shit that maybe that could possibly be the end of original art. You know, what happened?
Yeah.
What's going to happen to Alien? Is that going to become a Disney-fied franchise? What's going to happen to the other properties that Fox owns?
Yep.
These original Searchlight movies. We're so focused that they tricked us into thinking that it's so important to have Spider-Man and X-Men that the other 80% of the company is just collateral.
I don't even know if they tricked people, because regardless of our opinion, they were going to do it anyway.
I know, but
that's how monopolies work. Like, we're going to buy you. Regardless of what people think, we're buying you out.
But
anyway.
they tricked people into rooting for this. they said, yes, my dolls can play together now. What's Predator? Who cares?
My dolls can play together now. Oh my goodness.
It's just sad. Like,
I mean, people don't really, they're not thinking about the side effects of this. Like, hey, we are getting Spider-Man and X-Men and Fantastic Four back. However, you also don't realize you just lost a bunch of other, because you're so focused on, the superheroes right now. It's just, it's a very odd thing.
Like, don't get me wrong, it's going to be very exciting when X-Men fights, I don't know, Spider-Man 3.
Fantastic Four comes,
Okay, but seriously, you could watch that you could read that in the comics. You could see that in a cartoon already. We've already seen this millions and millions of times.
And now it's on screen.
We're losing so much more because it's one company, not two. Now, instead of having two different people, at a minimum, CEOs of both companies with two different visions, and that trickling down and multiplying into multiple other visions, now, and different iterations of art and different storylines that could be happening, different perspectives. Now it's all one person that gets to decide how all of that.
One entity now,
yeah. And it's just like, man, it's just disappointing.
Yeah,
it's really frustrating that they were able to trick us into saying our two dolls can play together now, so fuck everything else. Who cares? Good job, Disney, for buying. Same with Microsoft buying Activision. Great. Activision's under poor leadership already, so let's buy them and make it where it's only World of Warcraft is on Xbox. Yay.
And what's unfortunate is by the time people realize this, it'll be too late, because there will come a time where people will get burnt out of superheroes in the formula. I mean, and they want to move on to the next thing. And they're going to sit there and think, man, what happened to all the original movies about just like weird stuff and dramas and mysteries and thrillers? And it's like, well, if you backtrack 20 years, when these major companies bought out each other, Disney bought out all the other studios, that essentially killed those IPs. And then we'll be having this conversation 20 years later. It's like, it's a little late now, but this is what certain directors and people were complaining about then. They're like, hey, you guys don't realize you're losing a lot of potentially good movies for another franchise.
I don't remember who I was talking to, but I about the George Carlin quote. I feel like that's pretty apt. I'm going to butcher it.
Well, first of all, he had a lot of quotes that were very, very relevant. Which one?
The one where he was talking about the illusion of choice. He's like, you can go to a grocery store and you can get 18 different types of bagels, but they're all owned by the same three companies.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we're getting. We're getting an illusion of choice.
Yes.
Where it's like, great, we have all of these Marvel characters to choose from. Look at all of these different franchises. There's so many successful franchises. We can pick our flavor, but it's all owned
by the same parent company.
The same company. And we're doing it with everything.
Yep. And unfortunately, there's really not much you can do about it. I mean, you could talk about it and say boycott the 18 bagels and then go to like this other bagel brand. But I mean, it's only going to go so far. But yeah, if you want to be like recycling, oh, everybody's got to do their part and we can take down the corporate giant. It's like, you're going to hurt their sales a little bit, but not enough to where they're going to care. I mean, that's just how money works. They can just pump out marketing and just make it seem like their 18 bagels are amazing, or they could just go out to that small company you were rooting for. They could just go buy them out too.
Yeah.
It's like, it really just kind of depends, but it is something to be aware of. Not really much you can do about it, but yeah, if you have someone like Tarantino making a controversial statement like that, and then people are getting upset, and he's just like, y'all don't seem to understand the bigger picture here. Like,
yeah,
maybe I need to break it down.
You said something bad about my doll.
Yeah, about Marvel. It's like,
mad.
And he's like, y'all don't understand. Like, y'all just lost a bunch of other original movies just to get another, X-Men movie, whatever.
Yeah, they shit talk him because they're like,
and you're going to complain about it in 20 years. How come we don't have any original movies? It's like, remember that one thing I said 20 years ago?
Yeah, people like Tarantino and Scorsese are keeping the film industry alive. Like the archive, they have like their own archive thing where they take these movies that are unknown or not as well known or adult, like real movies, and they're archiving them so they're in history, so we can watch them whenever this bullshit's over, if we ever get to that point. Like, they're doing more for cinema to save it than Disney is. They don't care about anything but money. So you're going to get your 18 Black Panther movies, despite the fact that Chadwick Boseman died. Fine. But, like, you shouldn't be bad-mouthing all of these actual creative people that made original works. Why are you backing the Disney machine, which hasn't made an original thought ever? Pinocchio isn't a Disney thing. Pinocchio is a German fairy tale. Same with Cinderella or anything like that.
Hercules. They're all stolen stories that have been completely butchered to make it into kid-friendly movies, but are actually nothing like the source material. Yeah.
I guess really the only original thing would be the things that actual Walt Disney made. Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, stuff like that. If you want to consider the Muppets, that's Jim Henson, but like those are the originals. Everything else is just iterations and IPs.
You don't really see them a lot unless it comes to like merchandise. I mean, they have like a cartoon show and maybe a cartoon animated movie with Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, but majority of everything else is all the other franchises they own, because they're like, hey, no one really wants to see Mickey, make an apple pie with Minnie. They want to see Iron Man fight the Hulk.
Yeah. So why are we backing we're backing the machine because they put everything in a pretty wrapper, things that we're comfortable with in a pretty wrapper, and then that's what we like, instead of the people who make original artwork, original art, original ideas, original thoughts. Though someone could argue that Quentin Tarantino does rip off a lot of other
old school
stuff, but at the same time, half these people don't even know what that old school stuff is being ripped off,
because they didn't watch the old stuff.
Yeah. So how many people do you think saw Kill Bill as opposed to Lone Wolf and Cub?
Yeah.
People don't even know what that is.
That is very true. I mean, because I love both. I love both sides. I love the franchises. I'm not burnt out quite yet, but I also do really love original movies. And yes, I do see that there is a decline in the original movies because of the franchises. I get that. And that's kind of what circled back to what we used to do in college when we just watch international films, or we watch foreign films, because there's some unique stuff out there too.
Yeah, there's a lot of amazing stuff out there. Though they're starting to franchise out.
Starting
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are original works. You just have to find them, and going forward, it will be harder to find these gems when everything is going to be a franchise money-making machine.
Yeah, when you get the Menu 8. And
the Menu 8. Remember how the first one was cool? Well, the next 7 were almost just as good, except not.
Yeah. Anyways, I digress. I'm sorry for that long tangent. Go see the Menu.
Hey, man, it made for a great podcast. I mean, we still got like another 10 minutes or so, unless you got something else you want to cover. But yeah, this has been good material. This has been a healthy debate. A lot of information being brought forward that people should be aware of.
Yes, please watch original work. I know the shiny toys are cool. I watch them too. But like, come on, let's watch some adult things. Watch things that make you think. watch things that give you a different perspective on life, than that aren't just coated in sugar and glitter.
Sugar and glitter. It's like a donut, man.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
I think the last man, I can't think of the last original because we burn through movies like pretty frequently.
Yeah, we watch a lot of movies.
I don't really like. Well, I don't know how I should phrase this. I didn't. I don't really like Bollywood films, but I loved RRR.
RR,
That was an amazing. And I'm like, man, if all Bollywood movies are like this, I'm missing out. And I know they're not. I know there's like hit or miss, but because I wasn't really raised on Bollywood films. But yeah, just getting outside of your comfort zone, watching something different. And this particular example, international foreign films, just like, and that was because it was on Netflix. I was like, oh, what's this? And then checked it out, and it was amazing. I love that movie. That movie
like
was so dope.
3 hours long. It doesn't feel like it
Because it's 3 acts. It's like a play.
Yeah. If you can watch 3 hours of Black Panther, you could definitely watch 3 hours of a man, playing a tiger. I don't even know.
Bear.
It's amazing. It's got some amazing action.
That movie is dope. Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah. I remember putting it on. I was like, hey, Callie, or, let's watch this. Let's just kind of see. I've heard it's good, a lot of good things.
Yeah, just give it a shot.
On. And then I was just wanting to see. I figured I would turn it off, honestly. And then I watched the whole thing. She didn't, but I watched the whole thing, and I was just like, "This is amazing."
Yeah, my wife and I, we watched it and we loved it. I'm just like, man, if anyone out there can give me like a top 10 list of Bollywood movies that I should watch that are somewhat similar in the style of RRR, please let me know, because I know Bollywood has a shit ton of movies. I know India is pumping out media left and right.
Yeah,
like there's like a whole YouTube like dedicated just for them. They have so much media, but I'm like, but that in that sense it's very saturated. So I'm like, I don't want to watch like the cheesy, corny dramas. Like what's the good like eye-opening like Bollywood films that you think people should watch?
I honestly think a lot of that stuff is kind of marvelized as well. So my economics teacher in college, he was Indian, and he had a cousin or an uncle or relative that is a Bollywood movie star.
Mm-hmm.
And that man talked so much shit about Bollywood and his cousin or his relative in particular.
Like what?
Just like how vapid it is and how ridiculous and how they got to sing a song every time. Yeah. It's very surface level. It was really funny. And we would watch clips with his cousin in it or his relative in it. And he'd be like, he'd just like show us, these things, and afterward he'd make a funny joke about how stupid it was or whatever. But I mean, he seemed to enjoy them. He, I don't know. I feel like there are definitely some gems in there for sure. Yeah. But there's a lot of schlock, just like there is in America, and
it's very saturated. So I'm like,
everywhere else.
If someone could like give me a list, if whoever fans out there of Bollywood films, what's like a good top 10 list? Along the lines of RRR, or just maybe just unique original films that we never would have seen in America because maybe it just wouldn't translate well with the Western audience. Yeah,
give us some good action, action drama style films that you think are notable.
Yeah,
or thriller. Yeah, I love a good thriller. Give me what's the next Raid franchise? Because we haven't had a good martial arts movie in a long, long time.
Do you know any updates about that? Because the Raid 1.
John Wick 8.
The Raid Redemption, that was a gem. That movie was amazing. You and I saw it in theaters, and man, the frat bros behind us were just jumping and yelling every time the fight scenes would go down. Yeah. It wasn't a good movie. It was a good experience because the dudes like behind us yelling and jumping, they were doing it at the appropriate times when the major action fight scenes were happening. I felt like I was in the movie. It was so intense.
Yeah, everyone in that theater was having a wonderful time.
It was just great because it was such a good movie. And then the Raid 2 came out, and we were like overhyped for it because we're like, oh my God. It wasn't the same experience. We didn't have people jumping and yelling during the fight scenes. The movie seemed to go on a little bit longer. I don't really know. It didn't seem.
It was more like The Dark Knight. It was expansive, less action. How do I explain?
Yeah,
less action per minute. It was like, okay, we're going to tell a story, an actual story,
Yeah.
more complex Godfather style story, and then here's your action scene, as
It
opposed to the first
yeah.
one being like, this is just action.
Yeah, yeah. This because there was a story in the first one, but it was a very basic, easy to understand story. Let's
Yeah.
go, boots to the ground. Let's get it rolling. It's very easy to follow. The second one, yeah, they did try to make it like more family story, and there was like they really tried to expand on, I guess, the characters in the universe,
Yeah, the
which is
world.
fine, world building, but they did take away from some of the action because some of the fight scenes in the first movie were intense and brutal. They were some flashy fights in the second ones, and the second one I don't know if they were like as brutal, but they were definitely like flashier, more flips and stuff.
I think the second one had just as good a fight scenes, if not better, choreographed. Especially the last fight scenes with the Bat Boy and the girl with the hammers.
Yeah,
All of those scenes were dope. They're really stylized. But then when he fights the assassin at the end in the kitchen. Wonderful fight scene.
yeah,
Fucking awesome. I mean, either way, both those movies are still amazing films, and we don't get much of. I feel like the last, if you can even consider it a martial arts film, would be Everything Everywhere All at Once, which has very minimal martial arts.
but the
Um,
story is
Story
very
is great.
trippy. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
the basic premise is very easy to understand, but all of the other moving parts around the main story are very intriguing and thoughtful and heartfelt. I haven't been keeping up with the directors of those Raid movies, so I have no idea what they're working on right now. I don't think they're working on a Raid 3. I guess Raid 2 kind of put a nice little bow on it. It was just a two-part story, but
I think
yeah,
they've been getting work everywhere else, like that. I mean, I know all those stunt people are now in like John Wick, and then
yeah,
is it? I don't know, but that guy was really good. I think for the longest time he was trying to make. His name's Gareth Evans. He's trying to make a Marvel movie, of course. He was trying to do a Star Wars movie. He did. There's a movie on Netflix that came out in 2018 called The Apostle. It's about a guy who like goes to like this remote village. It's kind of like the Wicker Man.
Oh, I've seen the Apostle. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
it was
the
good.
you're talking about the Legion guy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw
yeah. That
that.
was. I think that was one of his last movies. I know at one point he was trying to do. Maybe it was a Star Wars movie, but I don't think it ever got off the ground. So
I definitely need to get back in touch with my foreign films because I used to watch a lot of foreign films in college, and then it kind of like died down after college. But I feel like we're getting if this is the direction the movie industry is going, where everything's a franchise, I feel like I should probably get back into looking into foreign films again for more original
yeah,
works. 'Cause I'm
they
sure
are.
there's a bunch of stuff I've missed over the past 10 years.
Here's a fun. They're remaking The Raid, so he's helping.
They're remaking The Raid.
Yes, if for
What,
American audiences.
with like American actors? Like what does that
Yeah,
mean? Remake? Like
they're
whitewashing
remaking.
it?
Yeah, they're remaking The Raid
Uh,
with for white audiences that don't want to read subtitles.
uh, uh,
Yeah, well, because we don't read subtitles here in America.
Bro, that's so fucking lazy. For the American people who don't want to fucking read subtitles, not for the director, because that's going to be a lot of work remaking an entire movie with, I guess, white actors so they can
I
feel
mean,
related to it.
they do that all the time. I'm
Yeah,
not.
but
I'm gonna try really hard not to go into my whole spiel about
oh,
this,
you're right. Yep.
but The Departed,
Oh,
for
yep.
anyone who doesn't know, is a
Uh-huh.
remake of Infernal Affairs
And
trilogy.
the internal affairs. Yeah,
Infernal
I thought it was
Affairs.
internal.
Infernal.
Okay, internal affairs. I thought it was internal. Yeah, because that was like what 3 movies,
Yeah,
and they condensed it down to one movie into The Departed,
yeah,
which I literally think is the last thing I've seen Jack Nicholson in. Because I know he retired long time ago.
yeah. That was a good movie.
It would have been
Uh,
better if they kept it in the 3 movies because they had a lot of condensing they had to do for that one movie.
yeah, I mean, it got. I mean, The Departed is it's kind of its own beast at now, but it got it's popular. So I'm saying that they've been doing this
Right.
sort of Asian to American translation remake thing forever. They used to do it a lot more, but I guess that's not those types of movies aren't in style anymore. The adult action thriller or whatever.
Right.
So I'm sure they've lessened, but yeah, they're remaking The Raid.
Goodness.
So
Well,
it's like Old Boy. Remember the remake of Old Boy?
see, and I try not to get upset at stuff like that because at the end of the day, we still have the original. I can still watch the original Old Boy and the original Raid. So it doesn't take away from the original. It's just like, hey, there's also another version if you want to watch that one.
Yeah, and to be fair, those types of movies, like I'm sure there are a lot of people in America who had never heard of the original Old Boy, who are able to experience that story, albeit at a lesser story, but albeit get to see that because they remade it in English.
Yeah.
You know, people who refuse to watch Asian subtitles or whatever, at least they got to experience a version of the story.
Yeah, and they're like, "What the fuck is this weird, messed up shit? Why would you make a movie like this?" It's like, okay, again, Western audiences, this is kind of how foreign films work. It's a very different style,
different perspective.
It's a very different formula from the movies that we're used to seeing. But I mean,
that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, I enjoy that. It's something different. But some foreign films probably wouldn't translate well to Western audiences. I was very iffy with Old Boy. I'm like, is that going to translate well? But I guess it worked.
I never saw it. I never saw the.
Yeah, with Josh Brolin. Yeah, it. I will admit, it did keep all of the high points. So all of the major story points they kept. They didn't like water it down. So it was still just as intense as the foreign film was. Because a lot of messed up stuff happens in that movie, so that all those things still happen. They didn't change it, thank goodness. I know with movies like Martyrs, have you ever seen that?
No, that sounds really familiar.
Martyrs is a very good foreign film you should watch.
It's a horror movie, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no monsters in it, but it is a woman being kidnapped horror movie. They whitewashed it and made an American version that was horrible with a couple of white girls. It was not nearly as intense or graphic because obviously they got to water it down. But Old Boy didn't do that. But a movie like Martyrs they did, so it wasn't as impactful.
Interesting. That reminds me of was it the guy who made Funny Games also remade Funny Games in English? He's the same director.
I need to watch that. That's the Home Invasion, right?
Yeah.
I need to watch that, yeah. I could not imagine a movie like I Saw the Devil translating well in America.
That would not get made here.
Absolutely. I mean, they could, but then people would be like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why does he keep letting him go? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, I would shoot him with my gun.
Yeah, be done with it. Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
But yeah, very good foreign films.
I think those types of headier things, I don't know. I feel like in the recent years, the idea of subtext in a lot of films kind of get lost, and it becomes, because of the way of our culture is more reaction culture and gotcha culture, that subtext and things like that kind of get missed because we're so worried about outsmarting the thing that we intentionally, willfully or not, or unintentionally, kind of ignore things like that. So people watch horror movies and it's not about enjoying the horror movie and figuring out, or enjoying what's happening on screen or not enjoying it, the emotions, the subtext. It's about gotcha. It's like, well, why did they do, what's the logic in this?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. I'm smarter than the writer, as opposed to really enjoying what the movie is trying to convey to you as it is as a whole.
Yeah.
Anyways,
you and your girl should definitely watch Martyrs, the original, of course, not the remade version in America, and you'll be able to tell the difference immediately. But it's a very, very good film. I feel like you both would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll put it on the list. The ever unlimited list.
Right? Yeah. I need to find a copy of the menu and watch that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, this has been a very riveting episode. I like these podcasts. we go into some very interesting tangents. I don't know if people at home are enjoying listening to us, banter back and forth, but I'm enjoying it. It's fun for me. It's a nice way to kill a good hour on a Saturday or Sunday whenever we record these. The recording of this one is Saturday, but yeah.
We don't hang out as much as we used to, so it's nice to have to be like, hey.
Yeah, because you and I, we've been friends since college, and we have varying opinions on different things, and it's nice to explore these opinions and learn things from each other.
Yeah.
You got any parting words for the folks at home for this week?
I got nothing really. Enjoy your holidays. Um, stay safe out there. Eat lots of food. Play lots of game. Watch some original movies.
More importantly, watch some original films.
Yeah.
That's the takeaway of this week's episode.
Stick it to the man. Stick it to Disney.
There you go.
Watch something else.
Yeah, literally. Guys, go do just. You can do some mild research and find many good
Amazing
movies.
movies.
Yeah, you don't have to go too deep. Just find something that's just different and not made by one of the
There's a
major
million
machines.
older movies that are free that you could definitely. Like I said, I never saw Good Will Hunting. Amazing.
Yep,
Still holds up.
it does. Well, that's been another episode of Humans Talking Podcast. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave some comments down below on what's things you want us to talk about or hear about in the future. Also, yeah, I'm serious about that Bollywood list. If y'all have like a top 10 Bollywood films someone should watch that would like kind of get them into it, feel free to drop that down there. Let us know. Educate me.
Yeah.
But in that being said, we'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.
Later.